Fox Valley Voice.
Hello and welcome to Rivertown Life, a podcast with Brea Hayes. Today we have the lovely Jamie Saam joining us. Say hello, Jamie.
Hello.
I'm so excited to finally have you on the podcast. You've been one of my number one, gotta have Jamie on if we're going to talk about Rivertown life in Batavia.
That's right.
And here you are.
I'm so excited to be here. I was wondering when you were going to ask me.
Seriously.
Actually. I've been waiting. I listen to every single one and think, why am I not on there?
You might be our biggest fan. That's really, really cute. That's awesome. And now we have you.
Yes.
Live in the room.
Ooh.
So just a quick bio of you. So you are the former executive director of MainStreet,
Correct.
Batavia MainStreet, which is a nonprofit that focuses on revitalizing downtown main streets in small towns. Is that correct?
Correct, it is.
Awesome. You're also once an alderman in Batavia. You own a business in Batavia, a Bulldog Plumbing. You raise your kids here. You grew up here. You left for a while. You came back. So to give an idea of this, I want to talk about, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, the first time that I ever saw you.
Okay.
It was my first whole day alone in Batavia. So I was traveling back and forth from the city. James went to work and left me in Batavia to, like, quote unquote, work from home. So I went to Limestone early in the morning, and I was at Limestone like until it closed at 1 p.m.
All that way.
Yep.
Long day.
Long day. And you were also there the entire time. And I think you had...
What the heck was I doing?
You had 3 different meetings. You went from table to table to table. And I think you were talking to an intern at some point, and you're talking, like, watching a video and talking about blah, blah, blah. And then you were talking to a group of, like, hippies, and they were... you're talking about, like, drum circles.
I totally remember this now. Okay, I know exactly what day this was.
And I was just like, who is this woman who's like running Batavia from this like quaint coffee shop that's going to close at 1 p.m.
My day ends at 1.
Yes, which is amazing. So after I leave, I text James and I'm like, I think I found the Leslie Knope of Batavia. And the best part is he sent back a picture of you. He's like, was it this woman? And it was it was like an article about like you running for alderman, and like it was an article about your stance on chickens in Batavia.
Yeah, I'm all about them.
And then I was like, yep, Leslie Knope. So
I love it. Oh man.
So that was my first impression of you, Jamie. And I think it was another probably like 9 months until we like met.
When you reached out and told me all the things.
And then told you all the things. Mm-hmm. And you were integral in how I got hooked up in Batavia and had fond gifts. So, and how me and James both like really like came into the community. So that's my personal Jamie Saam story.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Leslie Knope of Batavia. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Leslie Knope is. If you don't, you can Google it. She's the star of Parks and Rec.
She's a little bit crazy.
So are you. I mean, so is everybody.
A lot. Yeah.
You know, like,
yes. If you're passionate about anything, you're a lot bit crazy.
Yeah. And you're really passionate about Batavia.
Yes, ma'am.
Why, Jamie?
I have no idea. I wish I had a good answer for you. You know, I think, it probably just has a lot to do with somebody said it to me not too long ago, and then I've heard it in different variations since then. How Batavia is like the Mayberry, Wicker Park. Okay, so it's kind of this melded, combined community where you still. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, it feels like there's only 1,500 people in this town because when you go anywhere, you know all of the people there. But there's 27,000 people in this town. But the people who are involved are so involved and love each other so greatly, love the businesses so greatly, love the community so greatly. I think I couldn't help myself. But,
Totally.
And being from here, I don't even want to say that's what it is, because when you're a kid, everybody wants to leave, right?
Yeah.
Every town you've lived in, you're like, not going to raise my family here. This place is horrible. And I don't think I ever thought it was horrible, but it just wasn't on my radar to necessarily come back. I thought I'd stay in the city. And
Yeah.
I did not.
No.
Came right back.
How long were you in the city?
Just right about 5 years.
Okay.
Well, I lived in Oak Park for one of those years, so 4 years in Chicago.
Okay.
And we talked about staying out there. We talked about raising our kids out there. And I am very glad that we did not.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I love this place. And I couldn't get as involved in the ways that I wanted. I did get involved if I lived in a big city like that. I think somewhere like Batavia gives you those opportunities to get involved.
I really feel like that too.
Yeah.
And it was surprising to me how easy it was to get involved. And I think part of that is exactly that, because I was coming from Chicago, where, you do feel really powerless, even in like a neighborhood.
Right.
And then to show up at a city council meeting and have people immediately know who you are just because you showed up at a city council meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
Is really like kind of inspiring.
Right.
And that is something that I also want to talk about is like, so what is your story of how you did get so involved? I mean, now we kind of answered why, and also like that there's not really a huge answer. But how did it kind of fall into place for you? Like, how did you become an alderman? How did all that happen?
Right. How did it happen?
Is there an answer to that?
There, a little bit. There's little pieces here and there. I think, you can probably speak to it too with your business and where you're at now, is how you look back after things happen and you go, oh, all these little pieces kind of lined up to me getting here. And now I see why that was brought into my life, and why I walk through that situation, and why I knew these people, and how this all is interconnected and ultimately gets you where you're at right now, which will ultimately get you somewhere completely different later. Right?
Totally.
So I think my parents are amazing. I love them so much, but they weren't big. They were big workers. They worked all the time. My mom and dad were both going back, or my mom was going back to school. My dad was working. Then they were both working. So they weren't big involved in the community or anything like that. But then I got involved in Key Club in high school, which is a volunteer organization and leadership organization for the high school students that's supervised through Kiwanis Club. And I attribute a lot of that inspiration to get involved and serve and volunteer from there. So then going off to school, coming back, I think once I got back here, it was just that desire to dig in more.
Yeah.
And looking around and going, all the people that are involved, I've got a 1-year-old. All the people that are involved in things have high school students or older. Why am I not being represented by anyone? Number one, on the city council, you looked at all the boards on the chamber and on MainStreet, and it was older people, and they're very valuable. And now I'm getting into that older people thing. At that time, I was 25 years old. Just jump ahead 10 years later, where I'm sitting now, and I am starting. I know that's not old, but I'm feeling like I'm on the older end of things, as you see new younger people coming in and trying to encourage those new younger people to come in. But at that time, there really weren't a lot. When I first decided to get involved, I think it was before Joy came on to MainStreet. So I'd say the average age of people involved across the board was 38, 40 and up.
I mean, and that still feels like the average age.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's the thing, is that like you'd still be considered an outlier.
Yes.
I would say even now, you were just even more of an outlier.
Right.
And there are other outliers.
Right. Yeah. I look at Danny and she's younger, coming in, being here for a while. So hoping to inspire more of those people coming in.
100%.
But I think that's really where that kind of started to even think about becoming an alderman. So I had gotten involved with MainStreet volunteering and things like that. But the alderman step was really, I want to see representation of my demographic on our city council. It wasn't because of one passion project. I would never advocate for anybody to run for city council or any government position just for one thing. So
you didn't do it for the chickens?
I did not do it for the chickens. It just happened to be on the docket at that time. So it was a hot topic of conversation.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that
Yes.
the chicken thing was a
It was a big one.
Yeah.
If I did it for the chickens, I'd have chickens. But yeah, no. So if somebody came on and said, I want to run for city council because I want chickens allowed in the backyards, I'd say, okay, you're also going to have to vote on bucket truck purchases and talk about underground electric for a long time. You're going to have to talk about personnel issues. You're going to have to go through months and months of a budget process. Are you wanting to do all of that just because you want chickens?
Totally.
You know, most of the time the answer is going to be no.
No.
But you don't think about that. You're passionate about something, so you pick,
Yeah.
I'm going to advocate for this or I'm against this. So when I decided to run for city council, it wasn't because of that. It was just because I wanted to dig deeper into our community and also be a voice for that demographic, which I think, and I hope people think I did really well, because I think I gave an opportunity to some other moms, in particular, younger moms, younger kids, that idea that, you know what, I know I'm like stressed and my kids don't sleep enough and I don't sleep enough and I'm busy, but I can choose to do the things that are important to me, and I can choose to say no to the things that aren't. And hopefully you figure out that kind of balance a little bit. So that's why I did that.
I mean, and I think that's really important but I still hear, I mean, especially a lot of moms, like, I would love to be involved, but I have kids and I'm not sleeping and they're not sleeping and all of that. How did you do it when you had like a 1-year-old, and how do you do it now? How do you balance having kids that are, you know, they're still in elementary school?
Yeah, 8 and 10.
8 and
Third
10.
grade and 5th grade. My kids came everywhere with me. That was a big thing. I had to be okay with it, whether people said, oh, why are you bringing your kids with? I actually just had a conversation. I don't know if we're allowed to mention. Are we allowed to talk about people?
Yeah.
In a good way.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we can talk about people.
Okay, in a bad way.
Yeah, it just might get awkward for everyone in this room.
I don't want to do that. So I was at Coffee with Abby Beck, and if you don't know Abby Beck, she's on the Environmental Commission, does lots of amazing things with walkability, livability, bikeability in our town. Born and raised here also.
We'll be getting her on the podcast soon.
You should, very much so.
I know.
So as we're sitting there for coffee, she's got her baby. I don't know. She was nursing. I'm trying to think about it all. And, you know, he's bouncing around and I'm holding him and she takes him, and totally comfortable for me because I did that, you know, and again, a part of what I was hoping to encourage people was that you can bring your kids. And if some people are not okay with it, then they just need to get okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, there were meetings at city council once I got on city council that Doug, because we own our business, he'd have to run out and change a sump pump because it was pouring, and I'd have city council. Well, my kid's not going to stay at home at the age of 3 or 5. So they came with and sat in the alderman's room and colored, you know? And I hope that becomes a good memory for them. Right now, I think they think I tortured them intentionally. They still talk about when I pulled them in the wagon to go door to door to run for city council, and they had to help me pass out flyers and signs, and it was a horrible day. But my thought is that when they're 40, they're going to talk about how cool that was, that they got to help their mom run for government. I might be wrong.
That's really cute.
Yeah. But I think that's the biggest thing was just me choosing to get the boys involved and do it with the boys. You know, Doug's awesome. He's, you know, I think I couldn't do it without having that support of somebody who knew what was important to me. So we tried to balance that, make that work. Again, it was hard. I honestly, if I could be 100% honest, I don't know how we did it, because thinking back now, that he was the only plumber in our plumbing company that we started.
Oh my gosh.
At that time.
Yeah.
I was on city council and we had 2 little kids. Like, what was I thinking? And I'm really just having that epiphany right now. I don't know how we did it. I really think that I don't know. But jumping past that and just getting involved in things, you know, there are MainStreet especially. I think I've tried in my time to advocate that it's family friendly, you know, so I think you've been in well, of course you've been in meetings, even with the Artisan Collective, and Annie brings the baby down, you know. And we've had meetings for cocktails in the park where there were my kids were in the office, Heather Koshin, who is the chair of that committee, her 2 kids were in the office, Kathy's dog is in the office. It was like a party, but we accomplished so much. But again, having that comfortable space for the moms to bring their kids or the dads to bring their kids. I mean, you bring your kids everywhere, Jaime. Am I allowed to talk to you? Okay.
Yeah. Totally. He just can't answer because he doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, okay. So yes, he brings his kids also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me, not having kids, it's great. Like, it's never been
congratulations.
weird. I know. I love
I love my kids, but congratulations. That's not a bad thing.
No. Yeah. But it's one of those things, like, even we had like one of those Artisan Collective meetings, Annie's like, oh, well, I can't do that time because, like, you know, the grandparents can't take Ramona. It's like, you know, Jamie wants you to bring Ramona to the office anyways.
I will play with her the whole time.
Like, you know that she wants to see this little bulldog baby.
Oh,
like,
my, yes.
And I mean, yeah, your kids have been at so many of the meetings that we've had over the last, like, couple years. And I think what I love is that there are these things that are very personal. And this is the first time I'm hearing you say out loud that they are on a political spectrum, that you're doing these things on purpose. And those are my favorite things, the ways that you just easily live your life and you show other people that they can do that they can run for city council and have kids. They can, you know, that's a plus. Like, it's so important that MainStreet is family friendly because that makes downtown family friendly.
Right.
And, you know, we want families to move here. We want more people to be here because, like, that makes a thriving community.
Exactly.
We also want people like me who don't have kids, but it's not like I'm, you know, like a miser who doesn't like them. Like, I understand, you know.
If you were, you'd move to an age-restricted community.
Yeah. Yeah. Not gonna do that.
No.
Yeah.
That'd be awkward.
But I mean, like, it was like a big difference to move from, so I lived in Logan Square, you know, like, which is just northwest of Wicker Park in Chicago. And everyone was my age or younger for the most part. You know, you never, I mean, that's not really true, but, like, you never really saw kids.
Yeah.
Because kids don't run around in a city like that, or not very often. So moving here and seeing small children everywhere, and honestly, like, the elderly, because we also do have, like, a very, like, thriving older community in Batavia. That was, like, the coolest thing for me. It was jarring, but then to be like, oh, like, there are many ways that Batavia could be more diverse, but, like, in age, we are very, very diverse, and you're seeing everybody come downtown.
Do you know about the preschool that they do with Elder Day?
No.
Where they have the older people who hang out at Elder Day, which is like for lack of a better term, a daycare for older adults. And then the preschool comes in, and the Elder Day individuals, like, read stories and work with the preschoolers.
Oh,
I can't think of what it's called, but it's adorable. That's so cool because they're working on that multi-generational relationship.
Yeah.
And that's happening right here in Batavia because we're very livable for all ages.
That's so awesome.
Stop laughing at me.
Well, like, I mean, like, this podcast is definitely like a commercial is not the right word, but like for Batavia, but, like, this is probably, like, the most, like, hey, move to Batavia.
Well, people should listen to it and move to Batavia. Houses are flying like hotcakes. Our friends just put theirs on the market, didn't even officially put it on the market, but because they put it on this realtor network, they got 2 calls and an offer within 2 days.
2 houses on, like, our block also before they were officially on the market, like, went.
Yeah.
It was, you know, yeah, it's cool. I mean, and I understand why. I think it's funny. Like, I don't know why I'm like, hey, everybody move to Batavia. Like, it's bad. But I think for me, like, my life is so much, like, better because I'm here and because of so many things, which I've talked about at length on this podcast. And like, I like getting other people's perspectives, like yours, who lives a very different life from me, but seems very fulfilled by this town.
For sure.
So moving on. So you just stepped down from executive director of MainStreet.
I did.
What does that mean for you? What happened?
All of the bad things.
All of the bad things. Let's get down and dirty.
Let's get down and dirty. So as I mentioned, Doug and I own a plumbing company, obviously. And from the time that I was alderman and we just had Doug, we now have 3 full-time plumbers and a full-time apprentice. It's busy.
Yeah.
And when you own a small business, you start out doing all of it. You are the finance director, the marketing director, the plumber, the car washer, the every bit and piece of that business, and it's running out of your house. And you have another full-time job, and you have kids. So certain things go to the wayside and get neglected. And I think we got to the point in our business where we didn't want to see any of that happen. So we've made some shifts. Before I left MainStreet, we've been having the conversation for a while. And we made some shifts to streamline our business, to make it work better for us, to slowly start to pull Doug less out of the field, more out of the field, still focusing on estimates and new construction and commercial and RPCs, certain things that he can only do, but to build up our service guys so that he's there less, because that's what you ultimately want to do as a business owner. You want to pull yourself out of the business and have the business work for you. Also, our kids are busier now. I think, talking about how you get involved with kids, when your kids are babies, you think that that's the busiest time of your life. But then you get out of it and you're like, wow, so much busier when they have their own lives.
Yeah.
It's so much easier when they just get to be carted everywhere I go. And they have to walk around with me and hand out Easter eggs for the egg hop to every business. And they like it. And they'll wear bunny ears. They won't do that anymore. 10-year-olds wearing bunny ears is not cool.
No.
So things
it is
changed.
cool.
It is cool. But
they
in
don't
their mind, they don't
understand it.
think it's
Yeah,
cool.
that's
Unless they're
real.
like gory bunny ears or something, So Max, our 8-year-old, got involved in hockey, and it is, if there's anybody who knows anything about kids playing hockey, it's super time consuming. Lots of travel, because you can't just play on the 500 baseball fields that are in Batavia. You have to travel to Joliet and Hoffman Estates and Chicago, the north side of the city, in order to play hockey. And tournaments aren't local. They're in Tennessee and Michigan, and goodness gracious. So all of those shifts, plus thinking about where over the last 3 years MainStreet went from and to, I wanted to leave on a high note also, So with all this new stuff coming into my world, knowing I needed to shift my focus to our own business, and our kids are busy, I didn't want things to start to peter because of me. I'm definitely a person that if I can't give 110% to something, I'm not going to be involved, because I want to do everything with excellence.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like it was the right time, and it's on this upswing. So if I hand it off to somebody, they've got something great to go continue with that momentum and build it into something new, as opposed to if I waited and things just kind of waned and stayed great because it's MainStreet and it's downtown Batavia and it's awesome. But say, another year went by and things just kind of stayed flat. Right now I'm handing it. Things are awesome. Attendance at Oktoberfest was great, even with the rain. Block party was bigger than ever. We've had success. We've got so many new businesses coming into downtown just in this next couple months, with Riverside Pub and Bocaditas and the little barbecue restaurant place that's going to go next to that, and the new unique vintage shop, and there's a consignment store coming in, and there's all these things. Six and Cypress just opened. So we've got so much great momentum. Pass it off on a high note.
Yeah.
Let that continue so that it's a little bit easier for them to work in that and then grow it.
Well, and I think I have a phrase with a good friend of mine, and it's super simple, but it's something that we don't always do. It's like, when you're done, you leave. Mm-hmm. And that's so simple, but so many people, including myself, have problems with that sometimes.
Yeah.
And And I think, yes, it's so great to like leave on a high note, but it's also, it's passing a baton.
Right.
And it's maybe the person that you're passing the baton to can keep it going high.
Exactly.
Because if you hold that baton too tight,
Yes.
it starts to go
Right.
down.
And new ideas are great. New people coming in, especially in the world of a nonprofit. You don't want to have that same
100%.
person in leadership for 20 years and then it just becomes stale.
Yeah.
You know, so I think this was, to me, it seemed like the right time.
That's awesome.
Seemed like a good time to pass it. So that means, you know, for about a month, I kind of stayed in the office helping that transition, then left.
Yeah.
And really tried to remove myself as much as possible. I'm still doing some social media marketing for MainStreet, just to help alleviate a little bit of that heaviness. There were shifts. So Kathy took on more of the events and continued with the sponsorship. Christopher's focusing on economic development and things like that, but trying to get his, you know,
Totally.
get a balance of what all of that looks like. So the board decided to pull that one piece off to help them balance a little bit.
Totally.
But still, I try to stay out of the office, you know, answer questions if they need it. But as I mentioned to you before we even started this, it's good because people would reach out. I'd pass them on. So this is the new leadership. You need to be in touch with these people. But yeah, so that gave me time to focus on our plumbing business, which I'm figuring all of that out because we moved into a bigger space before all this happened. And then because I'm doing the social media marketing for MainStreet, a couple other businesses reached out and asked if I would do that for them too. So I unintentionally started another business. I'm not talking about it though because I don't want any more business.
That's real. That's super, super real.
Because my intent wasn't to take on another job. It was to give myself more time. But the best thing I can say, well, one of the best things is that I'm able to re-find a balance in our days where before it was like MainStreet during the day. That was my job. And then nighttime was, okay, now it's time to go through invoices for Bulldog Plumbing. And then I'd look at Doug on the couch and be like, hey, can you answer this question for me? And in his mind, Bulldog Plumbing shut down at 6, you know, so he doesn't want to talk to me about an invoice at 9 o'clock at night. So now I'm able to do all of that kind of stuff during the day, during regular working hours. And that's going to shift and make it our working relationship, because we're married and we work together.
Yeah.
And it's always trying to figure out how to keep those two separate and
100%.
good.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good thing for us for that as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So moving from that, as you know, because you've listened to this podcast, I really love to talk about self-care. And you are, for people that don't know you, I know a lot of people that will listen to this do, but you are this calm and collected presence that, you know, we've heard so much of what you do, and I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you self-care? What are the things? Is it time? Is it your energy drinks? Like what do you do to keep going and thriving and be able to take all of this stuff on and still look and act like a person?
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad I look and act like a person.
You look and act like a person.
Success. Well, I think it's a bunch of things. You know, I do think I'm a pretty, I wouldn't say I'm like the super organized person, but I'm pretty routine and I like some sense of organization, and that helps me. Mm-hmm. You know, there's certain things that I try to do every day. I'm not as good as it as I wish I was, but I put blocks of things in my schedule. I'm a big scheduler. So I've got my Google Calendar, I've got my paper calendar, those things, and those help me. Those make me feel so good. You know, so I get up in the morning and I have this, I used to just have my like devotion time. Then it shifted to just Bible scripture time. So I kind of, that's always morphing. Then for a while I was doing like 5 to 10 minute meditation in the morning, you know, so I'm always shifting that first block in my morning to figure out how to like set my day.
Oh, 100%.
And I know the difference on those days where I do that and on those 100%. Days where I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I always, right now I've been doing this. It's like morning, I don't know, it's a podcast. It's all of like 5 minutes, but he focuses on scripture and then kind of talks about how to play that into your day. And it's been good. And I do it while I'm washing my face. So I'm not just sitting there on my bed doing it like I did when I went through like my period of doing meditation. But I think kicking off my day definitely helps me pan out the rest of that day for everything. I think I definitely try to discern what I'm supposed to do and what I say yes to just because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And I think as I've grown, I've gotten better and better at that. Because like I mentioned, I don't ever want to say yes to anything that I know I can't give 110% to. Totally. So I might right now in this moment do this. But once I know I hit that point, once I don't feel in my spirit that that's what I'm supposed to be doing anymore, I will be quick to be like, okay, I'm going to step down from this. And it's not anything against your organization or the group or whatever. And I will still be here as a resource. But I, know that I'm not going to be able to dedicate all that time. And I know that it's taking too much from me.
Yeah. When you're done, you leave.
Yeah. When I'm done, I leave.
Yeah.
I do. And I think I've gotten better at that through time. I like to not every day, but at least some days it's just a shower, but almost every other day, I take a bath.
That's so good.
It's my favorite thing.
I love
some salts,
daily bath.
My
people.
bath. And then I guess the other thing I would say that's my big self-care is in the morning when I'm like making breakfast and stuff for the kids. I listen to some like gospel music.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much.
I wish I could play some of the songs right now, but if you want to so there's this guy, Hezekiah Walker, and the song is Every Praise, and me and the boys rock out to it in the kitchen every morning. I mean, it's like clapping.
Oh,
and then when
it.
Doug and I went on a mission trip in Jamaica, I came back. Like the biggest thing I came back with was some amazing Jamaican worship music. Whew. So I listened to
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, man. So I don't even know how to pronounce the lady's name. It's like Sinac, Sinack or something like that. Anyway, or H. And she's got some, and the boys sit and eat breakfast and we sing it. And it's so great.
That's super, super cute.
Yeah. So it's all weird things that I do for my self-care, I guess is what I would say. But I am also really in tune with if I know I need to go get a massage, I go get a massage. I'm just not somebody that deprives myself of the things that I know I need.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing in my book too. And my self-care is very, very different than anybody else's. And I think that's something that's not talked about a lot is that, maybe it is like a massage or a bath or taking a walk or meditating. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's listening to gospel music in your kitchen every morning.
While you're making eggs.
While you're just making eggs.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So I'm glad.
Join me any morning. It's super fun.
I love it. I'm going to show up one of these mornings.
Just do it.
I will.
As long as you're willing to clap in the kitchen. And
I'm so willing to clap in the kitchen. And we'll link in the show notes to those people that you mentioned. So
I'll send those over.
Awesome. Thank you.
They're pretty cool.
So another big thing I wanted to talk about is, so there's a vote talking about, political things in Batavia. There is a vote coming up on whether or not we stay a home rule town. And there's so much conversation out there.
Yes.
And we had a quick conversation of, if you could just talk to people about it, you felt like you could, help people understand. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to have you on the podcast right away so we can get people to know more about this.
Right.
And you have your phone ready to give a definition of home rule. So we're going to have you read that and then we're just going to talk about it.
All right. Let me read this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. It says, what is home rule? In Illinois, home rule is the state constitutional authority of the local government to self-govern, provided the General Assembly has not explicitly limited the power. So basically, what home rule is that if a city hits 25,000, I'm going to get it wrong. That's why I wanted to have a definition in front of me, too.
I think it's 25,000.
25,000. They now are given some extra governing powers to make in-house. So that means our city government, that means our aldermen, who are our neighbors, get to help make those decisions, as opposed to everything being based out of the state government, who we don't know those people.
Yeah.
So that's the gist there.
Totally.
Okay.
So, how do you feel about it? What should happen?
Sure. Well, it's super confusing because you got all these signs, right? So there's vote no, vote yes, and nobody knows which way you're supposed to vote. Can I say which way I'm going to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to vote no because you want to keep home rule. So the wording of the referendum on the ballot is funky. If you vote yes, home rule will go away in Batavia. If you vote no, home rule will stay in Batavia.
Vote no
Vote no.
to keep home rule.
Yes.
And why do we want to keep home rule?
Because like in a very, very bare minimum, and I think this is the conversation you and I were having, was home rule allows us as the local government to make decisions to say, we want to have increased the gas tax a little bit. It's nominal. Everybody buys gas. You don't notice it. You just go buy it and you think it's part of the price. Home rule allows our city to put a cigarette tax on, alcohol tax on, I can't remember all the other ones. Increase the sales tax. Okay, so those are called optional taxes, basically. In my book, those are taxes that I pay. They're taxes that people from Geneva pay. They're taxes that Jaime in North Aurora pays when he comes to Batavia. Those help alleviate and keep down our property taxes because it's another option of funding for our government. Should that go away, the government still needs that money. We still need all our police and fire. So how are they going to pay for that? They increase our property taxes. And as Brea, you're a homeowner. Do you want your property taxes to go up?
No, no, I don't.
No. There are other pieces of it too. There's the crime-free housing, which is really important. I'm a rental property owner. Ours is just one unit, so it doesn't affect us yet. But once they become multiple units, it gives our police, which it's only allowed for home rule communities, gives our police leeway as to the information and the relationship that they can have with those property owners.
Okay.
And information they can have in the leases to prevent the sale of drugs, crime, and things like that happening in multi-unit rental properties, which keeps our crime rate down because our police have good relationships, can share information. Well, we had this situation with this guy. They can't do that right now. It's illegal. Well, ours can. If it wasn't home rule, it's illegal for the police to share that information. Totally. If it's home rule, they have this extra information they can share with those people and keep our crime rates down, which again makes Batavia a great place to move for anyone who's looking.
Awesome. So what I've been hearing the most when I've had conversations with my neighbors and friends is that so they're unhappy with some of the things that have happened, some of the things that have gone through city council in the last year. So they're ready to vote to take away the power of the alderman and the mayor and give it back to the state, which every time that someone tells me this, I say, I hear you, because I'm also I'm upset about some of the things that have happened in the last year. But I know that no matter what, it's better to keep the power within our community.
Yes.
And if we, maybe some aldermen need some competition to step it up to understand either maybe they shouldn't be aldermen anymore, or maybe that they should be listening to their constituents a little bit more. Well,
you happen to live how many doors down from one of your aldermen? Right? Mark?
A couple, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, with home rule, you're putting the power in the hands of, number one, the people we elect, whether they need to shift out. That's our option, to go to the polls and do that. The other thing is, you can literally go knock on their door. So home rule, if home rule goes away, everything, a lot more has to go to referendum. And the reason why people are saying down with home rule is because they want to have that choice. They want to say, well, if this decision has to be made, let's bring it to referendum and ask the people.
Yeah.
Which sounds good in theory, but look at our voter rates. Nobody comes out, and people are uneducated and they misinformed, and it's bad. So instead, those people who are so passionate about it should just go talk to their alderman.
Yeah.
We have 14 aldermen on our council, 2 in each ward. That means that there are at least 2 aldermen that live within a mile, give or take, of you. And they are your neighbors. They're not some weird unicorn who you can't talk to. They are literally people you can go have a beer with if you want to, and tell them all of your things.
Actually, I don't think you can't buy them a beer.
You can't buy them a beer. Don't buy them the beer. Have them buy you the beer.
Well, I think you can't do that either. I think both of those are
Why not?
wrong.
Why can't you have them buy a beer?
We tried to buy an alderman.
Well, you can't do that.
Their soda, and they wouldn't let us.
Yeah, they taught us that in this class we took at Wabanzi, that you're not allowed to accept any gifts.
That's really,
it's kind of a bummer, actually.
Yeah. No,
Because I really like gifts. I think they're great.
I mean, also like a Diet Coke. Like
Right.
I can't,
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to sway any votes with a Diet Coke.
No.
I don't know. Susan Stark really likes Diet Coke, or it's iced tea from McDonald's.
I'm not gonna buy her an iced tea. I'm not gonna buy
Susan likes to walk
I'm not
to
gonna
her iced
buy
tea.
any of the aldermen.
Marty likes
anything.
Diet Coke. That's who's the Diet Coker.
That's who wouldn't let me buy
There we
him a
go.
Diet Coke. So
It's funny that I know all of the aldermen's McDonald's beverage preferences.
that's amazing. It makes me really
weird.
happy. But you sat in a room with them for a really long time.
And that's the thing. They're awesome. Yes, of course. Do I agree with every decision that they make? No. But you can go have that conversation with them. You can call them up. Their phone numbers are available. You can wait and you said you go to a city council meeting and now they know who you are. Not only that, they like stick around after the meeting and you can chat with them.
Well, and I think I know this and I agree with you. And I think that until you start reaching out to your alderman and until you start showing up at meetings sometimes and things like that, that's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people did in the last year, and
think
there's
so.
still some controversial decisions made that really bummed people out.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's what I'm trying to say is the next step is not to take home rule away.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is to get more involved.
Yes.
Show up to more meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Run for alderman. Find someone in your community that you want to. Like show up at your alderman's door. Do whatever. And I love many of our aldermen too. Especially mine. And they're both within walking distance, like less than like a
That's right. Lucy lives
3-minute
super close to you too.
3-minute walk from
Right.
my door to door.
Exactly.
Not that I've showed up at either one of their doors.
Right.
But I have written them many emails, and I see Lucy at like all the time, like
Right.
Trader Joe's, at the gym.
Yes.
You know, like
they're real people.
they're real people.
Yeah. So is our mayor too, though. So he's
Yeah.
somebody you can talk to as well.
You know.
Oh, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did want to say home rule doesn't have much to do with the Shodine project. I think that that's something also to put out there because I think that's where there's a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
Is there's people who are against that project for one reason or another, and they think that voting down home rule and getting that out of here will solve that.
And it won't.
And it will not. No,
Again,
because it's TIF funds, and TIF funds are not funded or created by anything having to do with home rule. That's available in home rule and non-home rule communities. It does home rule and non-home rule affects our bond rates, and a home rule community has better bond rates.
Yeah.
Less money for the taxpayers, better bond rates than a non-home rule community. But again, that's the one that keeps coming up whenever anybody brings it up to me is the Shodine project, and it doesn't actually have much to do at all with home rule.
And I think again it goes back to that like just there's some anger there.
Right.
But again, what we want people to know is to vote no to keep home rule.
Yes.
Because home rule keeps the power within our community because our aldermen are closer to us and we have more influence on them than we do in, going to Springfield.
Right.
And
I don't even know those guys.
yeah, no one does. I mean, someone knows them. They have families,
Right.
but we don't.
Exactly.
And we do know our neighbors. We do know our aldermen.
Yes, we do.
We want to keep home rule. Jamie Saam, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Finally.
Yeah.
Yay.
And we'll have you back because we're on a little bit of a time crunch.
I know. We can talk about all the other things.
All the other things some other time.
Perfect.
But thanks so much for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Totally. Woo. Bye.
Fox Valley Voice.
I remember to wear like my comfy like slippers. I just wore my slippers over, but I put on real pants.
You should wear your stretchy belt pants.
I know.
It's like my kids every day. If I'm like, you have to wear jeans today, they're like, oh, they lay on the floor. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is.
They're never going to be able to wear real people pants.
I think that that's okay.
Is it? I don't know.